The latest poll by Harvard's Harris School suggests that as many as 65% of Americans believe mainstream media is pushing fake news. This comes just on the back of last year's Gallup poll, which stated that the trust of the media here in the U.S. was at an all-time low. Is America's fourth estate in crisis? RT's Alexei Yaroshevsky has that report.
In 1973, Gallup asked Americans for the first time whether they had trust in their newspapers, and 39% said they did. By 1979, 6 years later, that trust reached the all-time high of 51%, probably spurned by sublime investigative reporting of Watergate and the Vietnam War. By 2001, the year of 9/11, the trust was still somewhere in the high 30s, 36%, but just 4 years later, it went down to 28%, and one can assume it has something to do with false reporting, and the term fake news did not exist back then, on the WMDs in Iraq. And in 2016, this number went to the all-time low of 20%, right amid the election campaign in the United States. The situation is not much better with TV news. From all-time high of 43% trust in 1993, that is when Gallup included broadcasting media into their polls, it took a similar plunge to the mid-2000s, again, maybe because, false reporting on Iraq, and then landing at the bottom with just 21% last year. And now a latest poll held last month by Harvard Harris School suggested that a staggering 65% of Americans believed mainstream media was distributing fake news. I mean, their political allegiances can to a certain extent tell you why this number was so high, because 80% of conservative voters said that, 60% of independent, and even 53% of Democratic voters believed the fake news thing. So the eroding trust in media, which is meant to be one of the most important institutions, is not new. And it is a problem. But how do you fix one? By acknowledging it exists. Some mainstream networks and papers make it look like they do. Restructurings, staff reshuffles, crisis meetings, and even occasional "we are not fake news" and "we will report objectively" shouts and promises. But then all of those collapse when they give airtime or pages to conspiracists like this former lobbyist for a number of Eastern European politicians, one of whom, former Moldova's Prime Minister Vlad Filat, went to prison for 9 years in 2016 for a $1 billion fraud. This woman not only publicly stated the Native American protest against the Keystone XL pipeline was some kind of nefarious Russian-Serbian plot, ooh, those Serbians, but also that the Russian media apparently did a bad thing by reporting on issues others would not. And she is by far not the only one. But don't be sad, mainstream media colleagues. At least, in the eyes of Americans, you're not the least trusted. The US Congress took a nosedive from 42% in 1973 to just 9% in 2016. Alexei Yaroshevsky, RT, reporting from Washington, D.C.